Tommy hiring a stripper for his dad somehow manages to be even weirder than Angela hanging out with the old folks, and that's really saying something. Landman has always walked a fine line between dark humor, uncomfortable family dynamics, and emotional realism, but this particular moment feels like the show intentionally stepping into awkward territory just to see how far it can push the audience. And the strange part is that it almost works. Not because it's funny in a traditional sense, but because it says a lot about who Tommy is and how dysfunctional his sense of responsibility has become. On the surface, the idea itself is already bizarre. Tommy is a grown man, a company president, a landman dealing with million-dollar decisions, and somehow he lands on the conclusion that hiring a stripper for his elderly father is a good idea. Not thoughtful, not caring, just wildly misguided. It's the kind of decision that feels less like generosity and more like panic disguised as humor. Tommy doesn't know how to emotionally show up for his dad, so he throws money at the situation and calls it a gesture. That's where this becomes more than just a weird gag. Tommy's relationship with his father has always been strained, distant, and emotionally underdeveloped. They don't talk about feelings. They don't sit with vulnerability. So when Tommy wants to do something nice, his brain goes straight to spectacle instead of substance. A stripper isn't about connection, it's about distraction. And that says everything. What makes this moment even stranger is how it contrasts with Angela's interactions with the older crowd. Angela being surrounded by old folks is odd, sure, but it's intentionally odd. Angela thrives in chaos. She enjoys discomfort. She leans into situations that make other people squirm because it gives her control and attention. There's a self-awareness to Angela's weirdness. She knows she's crossing lines, and she enjoys it. Tommy's situation is different. His decision doesn't come from confidence, it comes from confusion. He isn't owning the weirdness. He's stumbling into it, and that makes it more uncomfortable to watch. Angela's scenes feel deliberate. Tommy's feel accidental, like he genuinely thought this was a reasonable solution. There's also a tonal issue here that reflects a larger problem in Season 2. Landman can't always decide when it wants humor to feel absurd and when it wants it to feel grounded. Hiring a stripper for an elderly parent could work as dark comedy, but the show frames it in a way that's neither fully satirical nor fully serious. It exists in this uncomfortable middle ground where you're not sure whether to laugh, cringe, or question the writer's intentions. And yet, the moment still feels very Tommy. He is a man who believes money solves problems. He fixes things with transactions. He negotiates instead of listening. He compensates instead of connecting. The stripper isn't a gift. It's a substitution for emotional effort. Tommy doesn't know how to sit with his father's aging, loneliness, or vulnerability, so he avoids it entirely. This also mirrors how Tommy handles M-Tex. When problems arise, he throws deals, pressure, and authority at them instead of addressing the root causes. He's reactive, not reflective. The personal and professional sides of his life are operating the same way, loud solutions to quiet problems. Compared to that, Angela's weirdness suddenly feels more honest. She doesn't pretend to be practical. She doesn't pretend to be appropriate. Angela is chaotic, but she's emotionally transparent. When she does something strange, it's because she wants to, not because she doesn't know what else to do. That distinction matters. The stripper storyline also exposes how disconnected Tommy has become from normal emotional cues. At no point does he seem to question whether his father would actually want this. He doesn't ask. He assumes. That assumption is rooted in his own discomfort with aging, intimacy, and vulnerability. If he laughs it off, he doesn't have to face it. It's also telling that the show presents this moment during a season where Tommy's authority is already slipping. His judgment is questionable everywhere, in business, in leadership, and now in family life. The stripper scene isn't an isolated joke. It's part of a pattern of poor decision-making masked as confidence. And yes, it's still weird. Arguably, one of the weirdest moments the show has delivered so far. But it's not weird in the same way Angela's scenes are weird. Angela's oddness adds texture. Tommy's adds discomfort. One expands the character world. The other highlights emotional avoidance. What makes it even more awkward is that Landman doesn't fully commit to the consequences. The moment happens, it lands strangely, and then the show moves on. There's no real fallout. No reflection. No reckoning. That lack of aftermath makes it feel even more off balance, like the scene existed more for shock than for story. Ultimately, Tommy hiring a stripper for his dad isn't just a strange choice, it's a revealing one. It shows how far removed he is from emotional literacy. It shows how he replaces care with cash. And it shows how Season 2 sometimes confuses edgy with meaningful. Angela and the old folks may be bizarre, but at least that weirdness feels intentional. Tommy's decision feels like a man spiraling quietly, mistaking action for understanding. And that's why it doesn't just feel awkward, it feels wrong in a way that lingers. Not because it's offensive, but because it exposes a man who genuinely doesn't know how to show love without turning it into a transaction. In a season already struggling with focus and identity, this moment stands out as a symbol of that confusion. Funny? Maybe to some. Uncomfortable? Absolutely. Revealing? Without question. And that might be the strangest part of all.